Hi, this is Jason Hershey, designated broker and owner of Telus Real Estate Solutions, LLC. Welcome to Landlord 101. This video was recorded during one of our live Landlord 101 classes in fall of 2012 and is part of a series. In this portion of the class, we discuss the legal responsibilities of the tenant and of the landlord as defined by the Washington State Landlord-Tenant Act. I hope you enjoyed the video and find the information helpful. Please send us your feedback so we can improve the materials. Thank you.
Ongoing relationships with tenants. So according to the Washington Landlord-Tenant Act, what are the tenant's responsibilities? They are required to keep the premises sanitary and maintain it in its original condition, less any normal wear and tear. Okay? And I always tell my tenants, dirt is not wear and tear. That's part of my...
So what, you go in, you check your smoke detectors and say, wow, these people live like slobs, and I don't like that in my house.
You can show them that it's right there in the, if
Well,
you have it in your lease, you just say, look, you're supposed to keep this clean.
I mean, this is, that really speaks to more about when I get the property back, right? So when I get it back, I should get it back in the same condition I gave it to them, minus normal wear and tear. When they talk about wear and tear, what they're talking about is things like carpets. So carpets, if you walk on them, will wear out. And there's some general rules of thumb that are recognized by the courts about that. So like carpets, not expected to last more than 5 years, for example. So
Do you have a chimney sweep?
do I have a chimney sweep? I don't have any wood-fired chimneys anymore. So I don't. But if I did, I would get a chimney sweep on occasion.
Right.
So how often, I don't know, but I would
Once
recommend
a
it.
year is when my husband was fire department, so
Yeah, okay.
once a year.
Yeah.
So you would just ignore how they live and just hope it comes out well at the end.
And be prepared.
Because you're not a judge of,
Right.
of how people
Right.
live,
Yeah.
right?
Now, if it's not sanitary, if there's feces on the floor and there's rats and cockroaches and things like that, I have something to say, because that's part of the Landlord-Tenant Act. They're required to keep it sanitary. But dirt doesn't count. But for the wear and tear is really talking about, like I said, when I get the property back.
Scuffs on the wall, wear patterns on the carpet.
Right.
Where the
things
pile
like that.
flattens out, where people walk.
Yeah, it's not going to stay in perfect condition. They're not allowed to start modifying the property. Yeah, they're not allowed to, take walls out and things like that.
Gosh, I don't know.
All those things. Even if they're planning on giving them back to me.
But the children's graffiti on the bedroom wall, that comes later with the deposit.
Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Or the one I like is the graffiti on the window screens.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, personal issues. They have to assume the cost of extermination for infestation. So if they bring in a dog and the dog has fleas, then they're required to take care of that before they leave. Or if it's an apartment complex, while they're there, as an example. Correctly use and maintain fixtures and appliances provided by the landlord, including smoke detectors. So you give them instructions for how to use things, like the manuals. You say, here's the smoke detectors, here's how they work. You're required to use them, you're not allowed to take them out, things like that. They are not allowed to perform illegal activity. Again, we've got the whole issue of pot. They are required not to endanger or harm other tenants. So that's pretty much the limit of the requirements for the tenants, and they're also required to pay their rent on time. That's as long as the landlord's done all their job. Landlord shall not intentionally shut off the utilities. So as a landlord, you can never shut the utilities off on a tenant. Now, what happens when your lease says, and this is a rhetorical question because I don't have an answer to it. So if you have a property where you've said the tenant, you're responsible for the utilities and they're in your name, and they pay it late a couple of times and it gets put back into your name, what happens if the utilities get shut off? I don't know. I could run into that someday because I have a tenant who paid their bill in the city of Marysville, paid their bill late a couple of times. The city of Marysville says, we're no longer dealing with this. Landlords, if you're letting tenants pay late, we're automatically putting it back in your name. And that's what they did. They put the bill in my name. They still send the bill to the tenant, and every couple of months, I get a notice that the tenant is late on their bill, and they're getting a shut-off notice. So far, it's never actually been shut off. So I've been
And
lucky.
some places will not tell you, like I asked the PUD, because I was concerned about, power getting shut off and the pipes freezing.
Mhm.
I said, would you notify me if they failed to pay their electric bill and it was getting shut off? They said no.
Mhm.
I said, why not? Said, it's not our policy.
Yeah, and then
Thank you
and
very
with
much.
the power bill goes with, because, see, with the municipalities, because your water bill is attached to the property, you have a vested interest. With the power bill, other than the pipes freezing up, they can't, the power company can't come after you for your tenant's power bill.
Right.
So
Right.
that's, yeah,
They don't
how they
need-
can get by with
right.
that.
And
So,
here it says, actually it says that the number one duties of a tenant is keep that part of the premises which he or she occupies and uses as clean and sanitary as conditions of the premises permit.
yeah.
So they do have to keep it clean.
Yeah, but yeah, I wouldn't wanna try and evict somebody over dirt, and I wouldn't expect to win if I did, because I think it's subjective, you know. But again, when it comes down to whether or not it's sanitary is a different issue,
Okay.
so.
Sorry, what about hoarding?
I'm sorry?
Hoarding. What about hoarding? You know, you see all these things.
Well, I
What if
think
you
that,
go
I
in
think
and
that
it's
comes
not
under the
safe?
sanitary issue,
Okay.
so,
Yeah.
is my personal opinion. I've never had a hoarder, I hope I don't.
Well, sometimes I think it's a fire safety issue, and
would
be.
you could always contact the fire
Yeah.
district, I guess.
Yeah,
about-
and the fire department has the right to inspect your property at any time without notice.
Right.
And I think we'll even hit that in a second. So you're not allowed to lock out your tenants. You're not allowed to confiscate the tenant's personal property. So, hey, you haven't paid your rent, I'm taking your car, motorcycle, TV. We'll talk about, abandonment and stuff like that in a minute. Attempt to physically remove tenants, so you cannot attempt to kick them out physically yourself.
So really, only as a landlord, the only thing you can do is evict them.
Yeah, and
That's
you
all
can go
you
through
can
the
do.
courts to do it. That's what you can do. So you cannot retaliate against the tenant for exercising their rights. So what is retaliation? So anytime you do anything negative to the tenant, if you do it after they've exercised one of their rights, like they've said, so the classic example of this is, I'm a tenant and the heat's out. And Mr. Landlord, you haven't taken care of that in the appropriate amount of time, therefore, I'm going to get it fixed, and I'm gonna deduct it from my rent. That's within their rights, under the right circumstances. If you were to then evict them after that, no matter what the reason is, it's assumed that you're doing it because they exercise their right, and therefore, when it goes to court, you're gonna lose. Even if they're late on their rent, right? So it really severely limits your ability to take any negative action once they file any sort of complaint or anything. Okay, this is why you want to take why I view it that I tell my tenants, my prospective tenants and my tenants, that I'm going to start eviction process as soon as they're late. I don't always do that, but I tell them I'm going to do it, and I say, the reason is for that because I don't know, and you're doing it to protect yourself. If you, every time they're late, the minute that they're, let's say that your lease says it's due on the 1st, but they have up until the 3rd to get it paid. It's kind of a common thing to do, allows time for the mail or whatever. And then on the 3rd, if you're going, okay, after the 3rd, it's late, on the 4th, if you're showing up with a 3-day notice every time, and you have a history of doing that, if they filed some kind of complaint, you can say, well, here's my history, and look, I've documented every time I've done it. This isn't punitive, this is what I do. Then you have more support than you would otherwise in court. Does that make sense?
You have a paper trail.
You have a paper trail, right. So, other things the landlords has to do, they have to maintain structural components, so they have to keep the property weather tight. Most of the stuff is kind of common sense. Maintain common areas if there are any. Provide adequate heat, water, and hot water. That doesn't mean you pay for them, but if there is no hot water heater in the property, you're not providing hot water, therefore you're not really providing an appropriate property for anybody to rent. You have to control pests and provide for sanitation. So there has to be somewhere for the trash to go. There has to be trash pickup. Provide locks and keys. You have to have an in-state agent with up-to-date contact information. So you cannot be an out-of-state landlord and you be the only contact for your property.
What about going on vacation? What if you go to Florida?
Then you better find somebody for them to contact in state.
Okay.
So, you have to address safety issues, for example, providing smoke detectors, not CO2 detectors. I still haven't changed that after all these months. CO detectors, et cetera, whatever you have to do to provide for help.
This is Jason again. I hope you enjoyed this video from our Landlord 101 series and found it educational. Be sure to check out our other videos and provide your feedback. Please email or call if you need any help with your commercial or investment real estate needs. Again, thank you.